Hello and welcome to the New Jersey Morning Show. I'm Cara DeFalco.
And I'm Mike Favetta. Cara, we're so glad you could join us today. The race for New Jersey's U.S. Senate seat has taken another turn this week, with incumbent Senator Bob Menendez opting not to run for re-election as a Democrat, and Tammy Murphy, the wife of Governor Phil Murphy, withdrawing from the primary. The path is cleared for Congressman Andy Kim to emerge as the frontrunner for the Democratic nomination.
Yeah, and as we look ahead to the June 4th primary and the general election in November, there's a lot of key storylines and questions worth exploring. So, of course, we have our political reporter, Laura Jones, host of New Jersey Politics, joining us this morning. Hey, Laura.
Hey, good to see you both.
Thanks so much for breaking this all down for us, because it just gets wild here.
It does. It does.
So let's dive right in, Laura. Given his decision not to run as a Democrat, how might Bob Menendez's potential independent campaign shake up the race?
Right. So right now what he said is, I'm out in the primary. However, I expect to be exonerated after the trial, right? He's facing federal bribery charges. That trial is supposed to take place in May, and he expects to, and is saying, listen, when I'm exonerated, I'm not going to rule out an independent run as a Democrat. But what he did say is, I'm not going to enter into the Democratic primary right now. He wants to get through his trial. So when you look at the big picture, it is certainly an uphill battle, even if he is exonerated, because people are going to have to look at his record of service over that cloud of scandal. This isn't the first time he's been indicted on federal bribery charges, right? He was back in 2017, 2018. He beat those charges. Can he do it again? You never know what's going to happen at court. The optics of this aren't good. And much of the Democratic primary has been about the issue of corruption in the state, and a lot about the policy and about the procedure of what happens behind the scenes. So Bob Menendez still has his supporters. He still shows up to work every day, right? You are innocent until proven guilty, but he certainly is going to have an uphill battle, even if he is exonerated, because you have another candidate in the Democratic primary who's got a lot of momentum right now.
Yeah.
So we have a question now about Tammy Murphy, another candidate which dropped out and she stepped away. How might this decision impact the dynamics of the race going forward?
Right. So Tammy Murphy has said she's not going to, she was suspending her campaign. So this pretty much is clearing the way for Congressman Andy Kim to sail away with that Democratic primary. There are a couple of other candidates in the Democratic primary running right now, but they're polling very, very low. Tammy Murphy dropped out for a number of reasons. Mainly it's been financial, and not mainly financial. Right now, she was forced with a decision, even though she has the county line, which people have heard a lot about. The county line, that's where you are placed in the ballot. And that's what I'm talking about, that procedure that goes on behind the scenes. You go to each county, you campaign, you say, here's why I think, here's the kind of candidate I'm going to be. The county chair decides where you're going to be placed on the ballot. Position number 1, position number 2, where have you, right? Where have you? And again, when you go in, if you're a Democrat, Republican, when you go in to vote in the primary, that first column is going to be for president, and the next one would be for U.S. Senate, then Congress, and where you are in that ballot, that placement really matters, right? But it's kind of inside baseball to a lot of people. So now that Tammy Murphy is out of the race, she said, let's come together. She knew it was going to be a really bloodied, campaign. And she said, let's come together and really win this seat in November.
Interesting. So, and then on the Republican side, former News 12 reporter Alex Zdan also dropped out of the race. He leaves 2 other Republicans in contention. So how does that reshuffle impact the Republican field?
Right. All right. So you have 2 people still in the more than 2 people, but the 2 main candidates, Curtis Bashaw, right? He's a hotel entrepreneur in South Jersey. And then you have Christine Serrano-Glassner. She's the Mendham mayor. Alex Zdan, again, former News 12 reporter. It's really, really hard to mount a campaign. He dropped out of the race. He said he's going to back Curtis Bashaw. We're going to be having a debate, but so far, so much of the coverage for the race for U.S. Senate has been about the scandal. It's been about these county lines, and we're not hearing where the candidates stand on the issues. Even when we had the debate with Tammy Murphy and with Andy Kim, we were able to get to some issues, but the headlines that they're more about the corruption. They're more about county lines. It's more about backroom politics. So it's been 52 years since a Republican has held a place in New Jersey in the U.S. Senate. So Republicans are going to have a tremendous time trying to overcome that. But the wild factor in it, again, is Bob Menendez. If he is exonerated and he decides to run as an independent, could that put the Democratic Party in chaos, and could that give an opening for Republicans? When you look at the race for governor, 3 years ago, we're going to have another one in 2025. When you look at the 2021, and you saw that Jack Ciattarelli almost beat Phil Murphy in a very Democratic state, when Phil Murphy had the power of incumbency and he almost unseated him. This is New Jersey. You never know what's going to happen. And also what information comes out at that trial. People could just sour of Democrats in general. And if you look at the presidential politics, you had RFK Jr. naming his vice presidential candidate. People are really concerned that he's going to be a spoiler in that race. Is he going to spoil Joe Biden's campaign? Is he going to spoil Donald Trump's campaign? Not really sure. But it is an issue. And I would imagine if Bob Menendez does beat the charges and he does enter as an independent Democratic candidate, this could be good news for Republicans.
Wow. So with the Democratic nominee likely to be favored in the general election, like you mentioned, New Jersey, a Democratic state, what are the potential vulnerabilities or the challenges they may face specifically with the Republican candidate seeking to make the race more competitive?
Right. Well, it's going to be all about politics is perception, and it's all about this cloud of corruption, right? Andy Kim has done a really good job. And, he, on paper, he has overcome tremendous odds by shining a light on this whole county line system, right? And you even it's a system in New Jersey that, again, it decides where you're going to be placed in the ballot. You have the governor's own attorney general saying, listen, I'm not going to step in on behalf of a federal lawsuit that Andy Kim filed saying, listen, this isn't fair. You need to abolish these county lines, these county conventions where, again, a few select people decide where you're going to be on the ballot. And when you have a primary campaign and low voter turnout, placement in the ballot matters. So many decisions made in those smaller contexts, they have bigger ramifications. So the Republicans are going to be out there talking about, listen, this is a one-party state. If you go to the state legislature, and even though we're not in a gubernatorial campaign yet, anytime I go there and I talk to lawmakers about an issue, whether it's transportation trust fund, whether it's affordable housing, Republicans are saying this is a one-party system because Democrats have control of the Senate, the Assembly, and the governor's office. Not that that's an odd thing because it's happened where Republicans have had control, but they've got almost a supermajority. So the Democrats don't need Republicans. So they feel that their voices aren't being heard. And I think these candidates will definitely be talking about that, how, enough of the good old boy system, even though it's men and women, but enough of the system as it is, let's shake things up, and we need more representation. Again, 52 years since a Republican held that seat. Our taxes are outrageous in New Jersey. You look at the national scene and what happened in Virginia with the Francis Key Bridge. Our infrastructure is in New Jersey, that is an issue. What are our senators doing in DC to help New Jersey? I think that's where Republicans can come in and say, listen, enough is enough. The Democrats have had control. The Democrats have had these seats for 52 years. Let's have a Republican come in. And another factor, Donald Trump come November. So lots of moving pieces at play.
So much to keep an eye on, Laura. We're happy to have you. Thank you so much for breaking it down for us this morning. We appreciate it.
Always good to see you both.
Always good to see you. Laura Jones, host of New Jersey Politics right here on New Jersey. And Mike, good thing because it makes my head spin.
It really does. I mean, just going through and reading some of these interviews and these stories, it does. It makes your kind of your mind it's mind boggling, given how quickly things change in New Jersey politics. Good thing she has the weekly show to keep us on top of it,
Keep us
right
on
here
top of
on
it
New
all.
Jersey. Speaking of, you're watching the New Jersey Morning Show. You can catch us online at ONNJ.com and on Roku or Fire TV.